Well, I've been doing more research and I'm making a video here on gravity to explain to my sister what the theory of gravity really is. Now, she doesn't understand that there are two competing forms of gravity, and one is now highly favored or over the other. The original gravity was um, supposed, in my opinion, by Newton and his Principia, or notepad or book he made that they said was discovered after his death. He didn't want it published until he died. But up here, they're trying to explain what causes gravity. I typed in what created gravity. And they'll go on to say Earth's gravity comes from all its mass. All its mass makes a combined gravitational pull on all the mass in your body. That's what gives you weight. And that's why they differentiate weight and mass. Like fat and obese is the same, so is mass and weight. But they differentiate these two definitions to deceive you. And if you were on a planet with less mass or weight than the Earth, you would weigh less than you do here on the Earth. Now, they give you these illustrations of what gravity is. This is the Earth, and its weight, or in their terms, to deceive you, they use the word mass. The mass or weight of the Earth weighs down on the alleged, I say alleged because in my opinion it is, the alleged fabric of space-time. Okay, so they use a trampoline and a bowling ball in college, and they put the bowling ball on the trampoline, and the weight of the bowling ball pushes the trampoline down. And they use that to reference what they say the Earth is doing in outer space. It is the trampoline, or the fabric of space-time is like the trampoline. It's a fabric, and the Earth weighs down on it and creates this indenture or dip, which they call the curvature of space-time. Now, there's a problem here, which I will get to, but they will tell you that gravity is created by the weight of a planet or a star or the moon that weighs down on its surrounding space-time. And this dip or curvature of space-time created by the mass or weight of the Earth draws everything towards the Earth, or towards the center of the Earth. Much like Newton's version, this is Einstein's version, which he invented the theory of relativity to come with this garbage and to counter two guys called Michelson Morley, who did experiments with lasers to prove that the Earth is indeed at rest. So relativity was required, and they got Einstein, a plagiarist who worked at the patent office, who borrowed other people's stupid ideas and made his own. Now, let's see. Now, this is all you need, really. They're going to tell you they know the mass of Saturn, Jupiter, all the alleged planets in the sky, which are really only wandering stars. If you zoom in on them, you can see they're transparent, multicolored bodies of light that resemble currents of energy or electricity in motion, and they're not solid objects. Now, this here Earth, they can't show you a... They use artist renderings in these stupid composites and animations. This isn't an animation, but it's an artist rendering. Now, if gravity is produced by the alleged weight or mass of a planet or star weighing down, and they'll tell you there's no up or down in space, so this is ridiculous anyway, but it's weighing down on the fabric of space-time here, and that curvature draws everything to the center of the Earth, right? Now, my question would be, since the Big Bang is said to have only produced hydrogen, helium, gases, swirling gas, dust, and particles, right? So what object of great mass assembled all the dust particles and swirling gas to assemble the Earth, to then become an object of great mass, to then curve the fabric of space-time to produce gravity. What bent the fabric of space-time to attract all the particles and swirling dust, or swirling gas and dust and particles, to assemble this big spinning rock covered in water? Okay, because they'll tell you at institutes of alleged higher learning, they'll pull out a trampoline and put a bowling ball on it and try to tell you that the bowling ball represents the Earth and the trampoline represents the fabric of space-time. And when the bowling ball is on it, it curves the trampoline, and they say that's what the Earth is doing in outer space upon the fabric of space-time. And it curves it, and then, like if you were to put something in there, it would go towards the Earth in their description. In my opinion, that would go all the way to the bottom, and there would be no opening to go around it. You see what I'm saying? They got to draw it like this, because when they show you in real time, the bowling ball is touching the trampoline and nothing can go under it or orbit it. Or they always show these orbits with it going around the circumference, this way, around. They never show you anything doing this. But either or, the alleged fabric of space-time should be everywhere on top, and this thing is sunken within it. You see, but the main problem here is if objects of great mass way down on the fabric of space-time, creating this curvature of space-time, then how could all the dust, swirling gas, and particles have been assembled by gravity if there was no object of great mass to curve space-time and attract it all? As I said, they don't explain that. They just go to the assembled big Earth and its mass and say that it's weighing down on the fabric of space-time and it curves it, thus creating gravity. Okay, now here's some honesty by these scumbags. Now, I'm not going to go with this legend of an apple. Do you want me to think that this guy was sitting down somewhere under a tree and he fell asleep and an apple hit him on the head? And all of a sudden he wanted to know how it happened? I mean, wouldn't he have known that the weight of the apple caused it to fall to the ground because it was unsupported, that the apple itself is heavier than its surrounding air? I mean, doesn't air have more presence and substance than the alleged fabric of space-time? If you go outside and whip your hand outside, you can feel the resistance of the air. But if this stuff here is occurring up here, then that means this fabric of space-time influence is coming in through our atmosphere to the ground of the Earth to make everything fall towards the center of the Earth. So why, when I whip my hand outside, can't I feel the alleged curvature of space-time? Well, it must have presence and substance if it's curving everything to influence it to go towards the center of the Earth. Why didn't the apple stop and start curving anything as it fell down? It's ridiculous. Now, the honesty I was talking about is, where is it? Okay, right here. Now, however, do we know what causes gravity? They'll say, however, if we are to be honest, we do not know what gravity is in any fundamental way. We only know how it behaves, and that right there is being intellectually dishonest, because to show an apple or an object falling towards the ground, the only thing you have, the only phenomenon that you are observing to form a hypothesis off of is the apple, not what is causing it to fall, because you have no indication of that. The only thing you can surmise is that the apple itself is heavier than its surrounding air, because I can stop that apple with the presence and substance of my hand. The apple stops when it meets something that can support it. Okay, so However, if we are honest, to be honest, we do not know what gravity is in any fundamental way. We only know how it behaves. And yes, I'm at Google, super Google, everybody's master. And they have to say this, and I'll tell you why. Because there's no instrument or device or man that has ever directly detected gravity itself, per the known means of propagation, which are current, field, wave, beam, ray, or particle. And I might rule out the particle part, because particle is in these jerks' definition a particle of something, a piece of matter. It is not a way to propagate. Propagate through current, field, wave, beam, ray. Like we have currents of electricity, fields, magnetic field. We have microwaves, laser beams. Lasers propagate through beam. And we have things that propagate through waves, currents, and fields. The electricity and magnetism are real forces, and they can be directly detected themselves. I would never show you a TV and say that proves electricity. Okay, the TV being on is a result or effect of electricity, but we can directly detect electricity. We do not need to show you the TV on. But with gravity, they need to show you something falling down, and then they say, well, that's gravity. And they cannot detect gravity itself, because gravity itself, for anything to be real, a person, place, or thing, to be real, it must possess presence and substance. Okay? If I go to lift up this knife, I got to use the presence of my hand and the substance of my arm to do so. Okay? They're talking of, this is just, however, if we are to be honest, we do not know what gravity is in any fundamental way. We only know how it behaves, period. Gravity is a force of attraction that exists between any two masses, any two bodies, any two particles. Gravity is not just the attraction between objects and the earth. Now, everything that they go on to say after however, if we are to be honest, we do not know what gravity is in any fundamental way. We only know how it behaves. Anything you say after that, saying gravity is the force of attraction, is illogical, and it's a lie, because they just told you they don't know what it is. Okay? How can you say we only know how it behaves when you don't know what it is? How can you, if someone walks into the room with a black eye, you can come up with 10 different ways of how that person got the black eye. He could have got punched in the eye. He could have got elbowed. Someone could have gave him the Karate Kid kick. He could have fell down and hit his eye on something. Any manner of things could have caused that black eye. But these people here have formatted an idea to corrupt people into believing they are standing on the outside surface of a giant ball in that water, that the physics and mechanics and nature of water on the earth is contradicted in outer space. Okay, because if you fill up this room to any depth of water, in an open body of water, the surface is always going to seek and maintain its level. Okay, these people, under any condition, be the water in a cup, a sink, a pool, they cannot even curve 1 inch of water. Okay, water in an open surface, I'm not talking about water poured into a bottle or poured into a balloon, because in that instant, water will conform to the shape of its container. I am talking about an open body of water that is not contained on its surface. Water in a cup, water in a sink, water in a pool can never curve on its surface, yet they want you to ignore reality on the earth that we can demonstrate to believe that water, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, are wrapping around the outside surface for 25,000 miles in circumference around a big giant ball that's spinning faster than a bullet at the equator. And now the equator is the halfway mark in between the north and alleged southern hemisphere on this ball. Okay, that it's spinning faster than a bullet, 1,039 miles an hour. Do you people even know what centrifugal force is? I mean, this can be demonstrated if you get one of them green, like tennis balls, and soak it in water and then spin it. All the water is flung off. It's flung off. Okay, but the problem here is the main reason why I'm doing this video is about the farce, not the force, the farce of gravity. Okay, now electricity and magnetism compared to this gravity are subordinate forces. If all three were in a room, gravity, electricity, and magnetism, gravity would be the general, electricity would be the colonel, and magnetism would be a major, definitely a major. Gravity would be the general, electricity the colonel, and magnetism the major. Okay, so you tell me, gravity is alleged to be doing 1 trillion different things every second on the earth. It's holding down every person, every car, every tree, every blade of grass upon the outside surface of a giant spinning ball. And it's never been directly detected itself. Okay, do you understand that gravity emanating from the center of the earth, coming up, or this garbage here, the curvature of space-time, forcing everything towards the center of the earth? I believe Newton stipulated that gravity emanated from the center of the earth and up towards the surface and back down. Now, Einstein he's saying the mass or weight of the earth curves its surrounding space-time, and everything is drawn towards the center of the earth. It doesn't emanate from the center of the earth up and back down, but it just emanates from the outside to the inside. Now, for gravity of any form, Newtonian or Einstein, gravity would have to interact with that tablet on the table, with the table itself, and hold it down towards the center of the earth. How, by what presence and substance of current? These are the known means of propagation. Current, field, wave, beam, or ray. Why can no direct detection of any current, field, wave, beam, or ray be detected interacting, engaging, or engulfing that tablet or the table? I'll tell you why, because there is none. Everything is held on the earth. Everything on the earth came from the earth. The lamp, the tablet, the glass pitcher, the glass claret, the table, everything was made from elements from the earth. Okay? And the earth and everything that came from the earth share a static charge, an electrical charge. Okay? And that's why an apple that falls from the tree does so, because the apple becomes, the apple stem becomes too weak to support it, and it breaks loose. The apple falls because the apple itself is heavier than its surrounding air. So the apple returns to its place of origination, the ground. Why would an apple fall 50 miles up when only 20 feet is the ground where it came from? There is a static electric charge that worked this out. Now, these people will tell you if you care to look. However, if we are to be honest, we do not know what gravity is. And that's because they've never identified or isolated it in any fundamental way. We only know how it behaves. How can you intellectually say that? If you don't know what something is, having never identified, isolated, or directly detected it, how could you say how it behaves? Would you think about that, sister? Or one of my sisters? Does that make any sense to you? Do you want it to make sense? Yes, you want it to make sense because you don't want to challenge it. You want to take the path of least resistance because that's how we were programmed beginning in kindergarten, to not question authority. If someone walks out in a white lab coat or sits at a desk with degrees, pieces of paper with blue and gold foil ribbons hanging from them, you are to instantaneously believe those people. And they're not necessarily lying to you. They're only regurgitating what they were taught by people they were taught to trust. And it's a big, dirty, vicious cycle. When someone asks me, oh, is it a worldwide conspiracy? Is everyone lying? No, idiot. It's like gossip at school. A boy says a nasty thing about a girl that's not true, and by the end of the day, the whole school knows it. Okay? This is even, people are taught these things by people they trust, and in turn, they go and teach it to people who trust them, and it goes on and on. And they do not know what gravity is because they've never directly detected it. Okay, you can't look under a microscope and see what gravity is. You have to be able to identify or isolate something. If it's like a virus, you have to identify and isolate the organism to study it, to know what it is, or to begin to know what it is. You can't just say we live on a giant spinning ball and this force is holding everything down, and to hell with centrifugal force, to hell with everything. Okay? They don't know what gravity is, and they just recently, I don't know how recently, but in the last 50 years, have switched over to Einstein's version of the curvature of space-time, because before that they were going with Newton, that gravity emanated from the center of the Earth upwards at all points, no matter where you are. Matter here is pulled straight back to the center. If you're up here, pulled back straight to the center. If you're over here, pulled back straight to the center. And they had to discard that. But no matter what version of gravity they want to, postulate, to be honest, they have to say, however, to be honest, we do not know what gravity is in any fundamental way. Now, can we create gravity? That'll be interesting. How can you create what you just admitted you don't know what it is? Please don't bring up artificial gravity can be created. If they could create it, they could study it using a centripetal force. A centripetal force directed towards the center of the turn is required for any object to move in a circular path. In the context of a rotating space, you see, this is what, these are like these thought ideas. They can't demonstrate this. Everything they say here, and by a spacecraft's hull that acts as centripetal force, these scumbags cannot give you any analogy that can be demonstrated on the Earth. It always has to be up in outer space where no one can verify it. Okay? This just makes me sick. Now, what is someone going to tell me? Get a bucket, fill it with water, and spin it in a circle? Is that what they're going to tell me? Okay, because the Earth is not a bucket containing water that way. Stupid. Idiot. The Earth is supposed to be a giant ball with all the water on the outside surface of it. And don't tell me, oh, well, you can get in a train and throw a ball up in the air. You are in a contained environment inside a train. Idiot. That is not what we are taught with this big spinning ball that's covered by atmosphere. And these gases in our atmosphere protect us from the alleged infinite and expanding vacuum of space. That is ridiculous. What object of great mass became present after the Big Bang to collect the swirling gas, debris, and particles that assembled this alleged object of great mass that then weighs down on the fabric of space-time to create this curvature of space-time, which they say produces gravity. Okay, they skip A, B, C, and go straight to D. When you ask them about gravity, oh, never mind about how gravity was created before there was an object of great mass to press down on the fabric of space-time to create gravity. Let's skip past A, B, and C and go straight to D. We got an object of great mass, the Earth, or the Sun, or the Moon, and it weighs down. And don't forget, they tell us there is no down or up in space, but these objects, the Earth of great mass, weigh down on the fabric of space-time, and that produces gravity. This curve, they say if something comes in the proximity of this curve, that it will then go towards the Earth. I think it would go down, and the way it's depicted here, I don't think it would go towards the center of the Earth. It would come this way and go down. What the F are they talking about? And what would cause, like the moon, would have to be in this proximity, not over here creating its own little dip in the alleged fabric of space-time, but the moon would have to be within the Earth's curvature of space-time to roll around. It would roll around the circumference of the Earth. Why wouldn't it go down? The fabric of space-time should be all around the Earth. You know, in 3 dimensions. This is 2 dimensions. How dare these people? Well, that's not how dare. They just know people are stupid. That's why they put out articles, Fox News articles, science wants to move the Earth. They want to move the Earth, the Sun, and all the planets to another region of space. They want to move the whole solar system to another region in space to avoid killer asteroids. Per a Fox, you know what? I'll show you. I'll show you how they mock you people every day. Fox News article. Science, wants to move the Earth. See, on my phone it would have came up by now. Sun and solar system to another. Let me just go with that and see if it comes up. Oh, yeah. That's the first one. I'm at your master Google. FoxNews.com. Scientists want to move the sun and our solar system to save Earth from killer asteroids, the stellar engine. Now, let me tell you, you fools, something. 2 years ago, I watched a movie that was, I'd seen it on Netflix, and it was a foreign movie, either by the Japanese or the Chinese, and it was called The Wandering Earth. And I know that space is fake now, but I still enjoy science fiction movies. And I will say that this movie, called The Wandering Earth, was excellent. Well done. Fake propaganda, yes, but entertaining very much. And the premise was the sun was burning out and they had to find a new star for the Earth. So they too invented stellar engines. And it turned the whole Earth into a spaceship, which is basically what they say it is now. chasing after the sun. And these stellar engines propelled the Earth to another star so that they could travel to this star. And I guess the computer told them the right distance for the other star's gravitational pull, the Goldilocks zone, alleged. And they made it, and they lived happily ever after, but not after at least a half dozen calamities while trying to get there. It was a good movie, but this, like satellites that were, I forgot the guy's name, science fiction author, wrote about satellites, and 5 years later, science stole the idea and invented satellites. And here too, I would bet my life that they got this idea from the movie called The Wandering Earth, which was 2 years ago. Now, if you want to look at this stupidity, type it in. Fox News article, science wants to move the Earth, Sun, and solar system to another. That's all I put. It'll come up. It's the first hit. And they'll go on to tell you, yes, they want to do this. They're working on a way to invent stellar engines, and they're going to move not only the Earth, but they're going to move the sun and all the planets too, the whole solar system, to another region or parsec of space. And you people will instantaneously believe it. They could tell you tomorrow. NASA.gov and the fake news outlets could announce that science has invented stellar engines, and in the process of the next 2 years, they will be fired. They will be installed in Antarctica where no one can go, and they will be pushing the Earth, and they could say the sun too, to another region of space. And 2 years later, they could say it's complete. They could show NASA clapping their hands and celebrating like they always do, and you people would instantaneously believe it. And that's what has occurred. Their propaganda is complete. You've been systematically dumbed down, and you don't even know where you live. You don't know reality. And that's the way it is. And when you wake up and realize the truth, you're really the odd man out. But I don't mind, because I know the truth, because I only follow that which I can understand and personally verify, or watch someone else verify it to my satisfaction. So if you want to keep believing in stuff they admit, which they must admit, that they don't know what it is, because you can never say or go into explaining how something behaves if you don't know what it is, if it's never been identified or isolated. You know, you can't do that unless you want to be disingenuous. And that's what these people do. And they don't challenge anything, because there's a board called peer review. In my opinion, they're the mafia of science. They say what's published and what's ridiculous. So if whatever you're putting forth doesn't coincide with this garbage, you're out. You're done. It's not getting published. And that's censorship. How can you form a hypothesis with no independent variable? Variable. You have to observe something in nature, a phenomenon that you can observe. Then you form your hypothesis. People don't even know what real science is. We have real demonstrable science that requires not even one theory. Then we have scientism, which is nothing but theory upon unverifiable theory, one after another. It cannot be demonstrated. Black holes, quarks, atoms. Atoms have never been seen. Do you know what a digital composite is? They're fake things. If you can't see it, you can't go on to describe what it is. Like I said, if some guy walks in the room with a black eye, there's a dozen ways he could have got it. How are you going to put forth one idea with no information from that individual? Ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Wake up.